There. Sam is coming, and we're ready. Thanks for joining us tonight. So I know some people have said on when the live streams replay, they cannot see the can't think of the chat still, and I'm really sorry. I have no idea why. I have gone through all of YouTube's help steps. I have read the the instructions on how to do it. I've done everything in the instructions. When I go back and double check, it shows that it has saved the setting to display live chat on the playback, and so I have absolutely no idea. And hopefully, it's some sort of app glitch that at some point is going to get fixed. But there is literally nothing more I can do on our end, and I apologize if you can't see it. I've done my very best to get it for you. Sorry, we're trying. The tripod keeps wanting to tip over. I'm trying to figure out why.
Yeah,
I think we got it. Here, I'll scooch. But we should be good. Yeah, light turned on. So sorry if you can't see it, but everything on our end shows that it should show up. Right? Let's check.
Yeah, scroll down just to make sure there's nothing
Double checking
else.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So hopefully it works this time. So anyway, let's see who's here. I know I've got why is that? Man, I'm a hot mess tonight. I was working on the video that's coming up tomorrow. I wanted to give it a really good thumbnail because it's a really good video. As far as those of you who like the canning pantry videos, got a real yummy recipe coming up, and I wanted it to have an exceptional thumbnail, and that's what I was doing right before we logged on. It is ready though. All right, let's see who's here. We're ready. Adele is here. Welcome, Adele. And Debbie and Bill and Celia. Welcome. Empty Nester, Diane. Debbie's here from Oklahoma, and Veronica, welcome. Heidi is here from the beginning, yay. And Lisa's here. And let's see, Beth, welcome from Illinois. Sandy is here. I'm glad you could catch us live. I know sometimes, especially if you're not in a central time zone, this might be in the middle of your dinner. So glad you could join us. Arkansas Prepper's here. And Chris and J&B, hit the thumbs up. Yeah, if you think about it, hit the thumbs up. It does help us in the algorithm, which we always appreciate. So today was a fun day. We did something new today. I'll give you a hint. We canned something today I have never canned before for fun. My friend Adrian came over and helped. And you guys, guess what you think it is, but I'll give you a hint. It's something that was water bath canned. It did not have to be pressure canned. So that kind of really narrows down your options. So what do you think we did? And then I'll show you after we get a few guesses, just for fun.
We have Herb Earth Garden here and Aunt Holly as well. So
again, it's something I've never canned before. So if you're watching a long time and you've kept up with our canning videos, you kind of know what I do. And it's something
I would say it's
needs water bath canned.
I wouldn't say it's rare, but I would never have thought of canning this, honestly. I mean, I know sometimes we buy it.
Buy it canned at the store. Yeah.
But even that, not very often, really.
Well, I do for the kids. The kids really like these
not really
from
canned,
the store.
It's the tiny little...
Yeah, but that's canned. I mean, it is.
Well, I guess it's a little different.
Did you can butter? That's a great guess,
That's
Beth.
a good
I did
guess.
not can butter. We go through so much butter here, there's no use in canning it. I'd pop the jar open as soon as I put it up. Let's see, Annoying Stan says, most of the stuff I can has to be pressure canned, so I'm at a loss. So yeah, and if you aren't aware of the difference is pressure canning is for what they call low acid foods. So that means that things that can be water bath canned are typically like a fruit, something that has a lot of acid in it.
Lisa guesses fish.
It's not fish.
And Chris says you had talked about mandarin oranges.
And ding, winner, chicken dinner, we canned some mandarin oranges today. Look how pretty that color is.
It is pretty.
Nice. That's really pretty. It was fun. I will say that peeling the 600 oranges, I don't know if it was that many, but it was a lot, oranges that we canned, that part was a little boring, but it was really simple. We'll have a video coming up on this later. But we did it because the kids love mandarin oranges, like the little sections, and those individual fruit cups are super expensive. And so I thought, well, let's try canning a small batch at home. And then if we like that, we'll know next time we see those mandarin oranges on sale, we can do a whole bunch.
Let's see. Tara is here. Veronica guessed juice. Debbie guessed salsa.
Those are both good guesses. I have done apple juice before. We made our own apple juice and canned it.
Heidi says, LOL on butter. With rising prices, I have started buying extra when I see a good price and tossing into the deep freeze. Arkansas Preppers guessed oranges.
Yeah.
Yep. Prep for Eternity is here, and so is Homestead Nana and Little Dutchy.
Welcome, welcome.
Hi, I'm new. Those oranges look delicious.
So we'll have to pop them in a can here in a couple of days and see what the kids think. So I did a lot of reading online about canning the oranges, and people were really specifically said you have to be really careful to make sure you peel off as much, I think it's called pith, the white stuff, as possible, because if you have too much, it'll make for a bitter orange. And I think it was Earth Herb Garden. She told us that she buys things called pectinase. It's an enzyme you can add, and it helps dissolve the pith so that you don't have that problem. And I tried not to do that this time, but if we feel like these are a little bit on the bitter side, I might try that next time. So I'm interested to try. I will tell you, we bought 15 pounds of mandarin oranges, and that made 9 quarts. So they get like that. It looks like a ton of oranges when you get it, but then you only get 9 quart jars when you're done. But there are a lot of slices in here.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And I think if I do it again, I'll do pints, because I think even with the kids, as much as they love oranges, I think this is going to be more than one meal worth for them. So
for sure.
Let's see. Annoying fans, are you putting the skins in vinegar to make cleaner? I'm trying that first time. Yeah, it's actually sitting on my counter. I did skins in vinegar, so it'd be about 2 weeks sitting in there, and then you should have a nice orangey smelling disinfectant. And then I also put a bunch on the stove today with a cinnamon stick, and it just made the kitchen smell really nice, like a potpourri. But we had so many peels, I didn't know what to do with all of it. Like, I didn't need 6 gallons of orange vinegar, so a lot of it just went in the compost pile, because I don't really know that there's much else you could do with orange peels besides the potpourri.
Yeah,
and then I guess they could have dehydrated them and made like an orange powder that could be added to like a potpourri, but that's a lot of work for orange peels. So
Lisa says, fingers crossed they're good. Lois is here from Ohio. Thanks for joining us.
And also fun today, so when my friend came over, she brought me a bare root persimmon tree from her property, like a, what do you call it, a sapling, like a first year tree. Because persimmons are native around here, and our neighbor has some on his property, but we kind of hadn't found any on our property. And persimmon jams and jellies are good, and since it's a native plant, something I'd like to have on our farm, but we didn't. But on her property, they have a lot of persimmon trees, so she brought me over a sapling today, and we planted it up in the back of our property, kind of near our neighbor's fence line, so hopefully the cross-pollination will blow over the property line, and then we can have our own persimmons. We'll see how that goes. But actually, while she was here, she walked through our forest with me that's behind the house and helped me identify. She's very good at identifying plants. She helped me identify a few things back there, and we think we may have found a persimmon tree on our property too. So we already had one.
That's cool.
But I'm not good at. Or do you feel like you're good at identifying native plants? I don't feel like I know enough, and it's not something I have had really a lot of time to study. I wish I knew more. We did find a whole bush section of gooseberries, so we're gonna have to go back up there in the fall and pick some gooseberries.
I'm terrible at identifying plants. Really bad. Let's see. Debbie says she loves mandarin oranges. Empty Nester says zest.
Yeah, I could have zested them. Yeah, zested them. Yeah, I probably could have washed them, dehydrated them, and then you would have had it for any recipe that calls for orange zest.
That's true.
So maybe next time. That actually probably would have been smart. So.
Tara says, I don't think I've ever had a persimmon. I don't know that I've ever had a persimmon
so
that I can think of.
Somebody else, I had one, sort of stole it over the fence line because I was really curious. But it tasted kind of like I felt like an orangey cantaloupe is what it tasted like to me. But they're kind of,
orangey cantaloupe.
They're very, like, you have to get them when they're ripe, otherwise they're really gross. And then that makes them kind of gooey, I guess. But I'd be curious what other people, how you would describe. It's not a bad flavor, but it's like weird flavor, I feel like.
Arkansas Prepper says, I have some persimmons trees and some are 30 foot tall. Wow. That's a big tree. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a persimmon that I can remember.
So persimmons are supposed to anticipate the winter too,
yeah,
like when you cut them open, like which way the seed looks. So, yes, as Annoying Fan said, aren't persimmons the fruit you can predict the weather with? And that's what people say, depending on whether you get like a half moon or a spoon-shaped seed inside. I don't remember what the rules are, but it's supposed
Yeah, I
to
don't
predict the
remember.
weather.
I don't remember what it all means either.
Yeah, Veronica says when ripe they're mushy. It is kind of a gooey texture. Yeah, and if they're not ripe, they'll make you pucker, real sour and bitter. So you want to make sure they're ripe. And I actually learned the old wives' tale is that frost makes them sweeter, but I actually learned that that's not true. That frost actually just makes them rot. So you want to get them when there's been a cold snap, but not a frost.
Oh, boy, that seems tricky.
So very cool. I've never seen one in person. So they're not huge. And they're kind of a little, it's like a little globe, orange globe. They're not very big. I mean, you can buy them, like 1 week out of the year, our Walmart will sell commercially produced persimmons, and they're huge, but the native ones are not that big.
Really?
Yeah, right around Halloween, you can get persimmons from Walmart.
I wonder how long it'll take before you get any kind of fruit off of that.
I don't know. A couple years probably, at least.
I don't know how fast they grow. What that looks like.
Spoon and persimmons means hair, like hairy winter, like bad winter. Or fair. I bet that's supposed to be fair winter.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's see. I never noticed a shelf above the kitchen door before. What a great way to store kitchen items. Yes, that's my. It looks like on the video. It looks like it's at a 45-degree angle.
And things are getting ready to dump off of it, but I promise it's fairly level.
It's straight.
And things don't normally fall off of it.
But this here, I can show you that. So we don't really have very many storage areas in the house or cabinets. So this really long shelf is where all my big things go. So like my medium-sized large pots in my roaster oven and my dehydrators and my crock pots are all up there. Things that I don't use all the time. And then the cabinets just have like...
Oh, there we go.
Like my really large pot is in the cabin. That's about all that fits. So
Debbie says she's never had a persimmon, and Holly says no heavy snow.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. Spoon means heavy snow. Gotcha.
Yeah, we didn't build that. It came with the house, but it's pretty cool and it's handy. So trying to make the most of storage space where we can because it is pretty limited. I was actually thinking about cleaning it out. I still think I have too much kitchen stuff. So.
I don't know. You've used all of that stuff, though.
I know.
There's nothing up there.
Well, no, there's a couple ceramic pots and stuff
You
there.
don't use that pot all that often.
No, so yeah, I have to work on that. I deep cleaned out the girls' room the other day, this weekend. I mean, with their help, but we got rid of like 4 trash bags of stuff. I don't know where it accumulates from because we don't really buy them stuff, but. It just accumulates. So
Veronica says it's a great storage plan. So does EW. Great use of space. Tizzy says a spoon means shovel snow. Knife means real cold. Fork means mild winter. Okay. Now we know.
Well, this year's persimmon seed, because my friend gave me some persimmons. It was a spoon, but we had like no snow.
Like zero. We literally had 0 snow this year, right?
Yeah.
We didn't even get like...
We got like 1 snow day. They rode down the driveway once. It got pretty cold, but it didn't snow. So...
The snow didn't slow us down at all. I don't ever remember having to stay home.
Persimmon wood is used in golf clubs.
Okay,
well, now you know.
Cool.
Now you know.
It must be like kind of flexible then, I would assume. I don't know.
It has to hold up.
We're getting a persimmon education tonight.
Yes, I'm learning something new.
From everybody.
We have a lot of native plants though. So we have ground cherries, we have mulberries, we have blackberries, we now have persimmon tree. Those are all local native. Elderberries, local native. We have that too.
I wish we had we've talked about this before, but I wish we had pawpaws.
Yeah, that's one that we don't have. That would be neat to have. Yeah, and there you go, old wives' tales. Yeah.
I wish we had a pawpaw.
I learned an old wives' tale today that I never knew, and I'm curious if you know this one. Growing up with a larger family, that when a baby, like the youngest baby, is looking through their legs, like they're upside down looking through their legs, that means they're looking for the next sibling. Like that's an old one from like Americana.
What?
Yeah. Have you ever heard that before? That was the first time I heard that was today.
That sounds like vaguely familiar, but that's not. I don't feel like that's a very popular one. Maybe
I don't know.
I
I don't
feel
know
like
if that's
I've
like
heard
regional.
that.
Like, 'cause I grew up in New England, so
I feel like I've read that somewhere before.
that was one I'd never heard.
Veronica asks, how are all the children? Lots of little ones battling colds around here. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had like runny noses and a cough. I've kind of lost my voice a little bit.
It just will not go away, their little colds.
Yeah.
And it's not one of them has had it for like 3 weeks. It's that each one gets it for 3 or 4 days.
But they don't all get it at the same time.
And then passes it to the next one. So
it's long.
yeah, it's a little bit exhausting.
Yeah, Aunt Holly says I'm old and never heard that one. So I wonder where that's from. Like what region?
Yeah, maybe it is just a New England thing.
We have a mulberry tree, but it's so tall we can't get a lot. Birds get most of what we love mulberries. We were taught to put a tarp down and shake it really hard.
Yeah, that's what we do. And the kids love it. Once you shake it, they just run around and grab all the berries. We've also had to... Our tree isn't super... Our mulberry tree isn't that tall. And so if we don't keep it roped off, like our chickens get it really bad.
Yeah, they love those.
So we've had to fight the chickens for it. Right now, they can't get to it, though.
Yeah.
So Tara says she's heard that one, too.
Yeah. Well, I think Tara and I learned it from the same person. It was a friend of ours. So it was a recent one. She said it, and I was like, I never even heard that before. So,
I think one of my favorite...
Maybe she made it up.
Maybe one of my favorite plants that we have, though, is that mulberry tree. Just because the kids love it so much.
Yeah, and it needs no attention. Like...
Yeah, pretty much.
It just grows mulberries, and you pick them. It doesn't...
And it has no thorns or anything. It's like a lot of the branches are a good height for the little ones, so they can pick it, and you can just pop it, off the bush and eat it. Mm-hmm. And it does really good, like canned and stuff. I like the mulberry.
Like jelly. Mulberry pie is one of your favorites. The problem, though, it takes so many mulberries to make a mulberry pie. He gets one pie a year.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because I don't have the patience. Maybe this year, I mean, the older girls, they like to pick, and they're old enough to, like, pick for a long time and have the attention span to do that. But it takes, like, 6 cups of mulberries to make a pie, and that's a lot of little mulberries to pick.
EW says, building immunity with the colds. Yeah,
something.
For sure. Debbie says, we got a dusting one time and then dry as a bone, no snow or rain. Yeah, that's pretty much... we had a decent amount of rain.
Yeah.
Did we have rain this winter? I can't even remember.
It just wasn't wet in general. It didn't snow, it didn't really rain, didn't really do anything.
Prep for Eternity says, maybe I can try that this year. Thanks. Empty Nester says, my son ran over my raspberry stick while mowing last night.
You've run over a few things, but I think they were accidentally on purpose.
I know I've told the story before, but when we first moved out... Well, we hadn't actually moved out here. I just came out here and mowed. I think maybe we had a garden, so we'd mow and water, basically. But we still lived in town. And the girls had planted sunflowers, and Daddy ran over them. They weren't really marked, though. And they were probably only like 8 inches tall. And I ran over them. And I felt so bad about it because they were so distraught. I could not tell them that Daddy destroyed their hopes and dreams.
You told them a deer ate it?
I told them that I thought the deer got it. Maybe that was a bad daddy. But I felt really bad. I had crushed all their little hopes for 10-foot tall sunflowers.
Prep for Eternity says, I would like to try growing from some cuttings, but not sure how hard it is. So we grew elderberries from cuttings, and it was really easy. They all survived, which tells you something. A great resource for that is the Texas Boys YouTube channel. You might have to go back a while, but they used to have a lot of videos on their food forest, or their food 401k is what they called it. And they just... they make cuttings and sell them too as part of their YouTube channel. So they have a lot of information about that, and they're very knowledgeable. So the Texas Boys is one to check out about that.
Veronica says, I'm pretty new. Do you have a P.O. box? Would like to send a box. We're heading to the U.S. next month.
Well, thank you. We do have a P.O. box. It should be listed in the description
or any of the videos.
Or any of our videos is listed in the description.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Katie says we got all the rain and snow in Arizona this winter.
Huh.
We didn't get very much here. It was cold, but it just didn't do anything.
It wasn't even that cold that often. We had I think we literally had 1 week where it was kind of cold.
Yeah.
And other than that, it was a really, really mild winter as far as Missouri winters go. It wasn't all that bad, which I was thankful for.
All right, so we usually start, we skipped right in, but we need a nursing school update. You were like this close to done.
I'm on week
2 years later.
6. This is the start of week 6 of 8. So kind of 3 weeks left, 6, 7, and 8. We got some projects due over the next few weeks. If I can get to week 8, there aren't a lot of assignments for week 8, so it's mostly just a whole bunch of tests. I don't know. Week 8, I'll probably, over the course of 3 days, I don't want to exaggerate, but it's going to be probably like 8 or 9 tests. It's going to be a lot because we have to take some tests for NCLEX prep. So after I get done with this term, we got 3 weeks left. I'll get about a month off, and then we start practicum. And while we're doing practicum, we also have to take a class to prep for the NCLEX test. And so at the end of this term, we're going to take some practice NCLEX tests so that they can help us on our prep for next term and be like, okay, you're really bad at pharmacology, so here's all these modules you need to work on, and here's a bunch of practice tests that we'll do over those 10 weeks. So, but this term, it's not nearly as intense as the last term, but it's going okay. It's going okay. I'm cranking through it. I actually had a really good clinical day on Friday. I really like the nurse that I was following around. She let me do a lot. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's hard. I feel like it's kind of a balance because they know the nurses, it's a teaching hospital, and they know we're there to learn. But there's kind of a balance for when they have a lot of stuff to do. They just want to crank it out sometimes, and we slow them down. And so some nurses, they don't actually let you do a whole lot, which can be a little frustrating. But this nurse, we had a lot to do, but I felt like we were cranking it out together. So it was a good Friday. Got a test in the morning though.
Yeah.
So
it's What's your subject matter this week?
This one is basically all about like emergency preparedness kind of stuff, and like emergency situations too. So like natural disasters, but also things like drowning and snake bites and things like that. So it's just kind of like a
catch-all first aid.
Yeah, kind of a catch-all first aid week. So we'll see. I'm hoping I do. I need one really good test. It would help me out a lot. So I'm hoping this will be the week. But anyway, there's not much to update on this term. It's just kind of ho hum a little bit. It is a little slower, but we've got our the big projects we have to do is for the leadership class, and most of it is about scheduling like for a unit. So let's see, last week, I just turned it in. Actually, it was for yesterday, but I was working on it all last week. We had to do an assignment for a floor, and so they give you a list of your nurses, your RNs, and your LPNs, and your assistants, and all that stuff, and then you have to assign them like which patients they would take. You have to provide rationales for all of it. Why do they need to take those patients? This week is we have to work on a holiday schedule, so it's like a Thanksgiving through the New Year schedule for a unit. Mm-hmm. But they give you all these parameters. It's very, very specific how they want you to do it. But I think a lot of these they make you go through this because there's a lot of turnover in the nursing world, and a lot of the charge nurses have been there like a year, sometimes less than that. And so there's a good chance if you're going to stay somewhere for a year or two that you will probably have to make a schedule at some point. So
let's see. That's a lot of testing. Yes, it is, but there's just a lot of different pieces to it. So mm-hmm. Dan says, getting ready to move, would you like a grain mill? I've never had a grain mill.
I don't know. We don't have a lot of grain. Like, we've not really...
I have some grain in the freezer.
A little bit.
I have a little bit. I just do it in my blender, which is really bad for a blender. But, yeah, possibly. Be something new to try?
Arkansas Prepper asks, PRN. I read the directions and they felt a little convoluted. You're not allowed to use PRN nurses or part-time nurses, but then they tell you later in the instructions you have to list where you would put a PRN nurse or like a part-time float nurse kind of a thing. So they're not technically in the schedule, but they want you to list where you would put them. So they're kind of there.
Jeff Coe has joined us. Thank you for stopping by.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
So we are waiting with bated breath, though, to see where Sam will end up for his practicum.
Yeah, we've said that. I've said that a few times. I won't actually figure out where I'm going to be for my practicum, what unit, what my schedule is, anything until like the day before practicum starts. So I could be here, there, or everywhere. We don't really know.
Which it probably annoys me more than him, because like I can't plan anything for June or July because we just don't know. We don't know. Like you basically have to have open availability.
Yeah, it's
for 8
weeks.
Weeks.
It's 10 weeks long. And it's basically them saying, like, you can't schedule anything for 10 weeks. Like, I don't know if it's going to be nights, weekends, morning, like, what unit, what, how many times a week I'll go in, like, any of that. So that is kind of annoying. But it's 10 weeks, so we just got to,
gotta bulldoze
grin and bear through those 10 weeks. We'll be okay. I should be, let's see, Daniel says, I used it to make whole wheat flour and really good bread.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Debbie says, how much longer do you become a nurse? I graduate in the middle of August, and then I will probably officially start as a nurse sometime in September, because I'll take the NCLEX. I have to wait till I graduate. Then I want to take the NCLEX pretty quick. You don't necessarily have to, but I want to take it real quick. So I think probably half of my classmates already have a job. We haven't graduated, we haven't taken the NCLEX or anything, and they already have jobs. Most of them start like around the first, I don't know, the middle part of September, somewhere in there. So that's probably what we're looking at. I think some of them were like September 11th, September 12th, something like that. It's kind of the start date for a lot of them.
And Dan, to answer your question, I know we kind of glossed over it there. Really appreciate you offering that. And if you want to send us an email, it's in the description. We can get it all sorted out. But if something
that would be awesome.
You want to pass on, we'd love to give it a try. I do have some wheat berries in my freezer. Like I said, I've been running them through my blender whenever we need them, which is kind of inconvenient because you only do like a half cup at a time. So, yeah. So I think the hardest part, not hard like mentally or stressfully hard, but I think this gap between you graduating and you actually like starting work is going to feel like this weird no man's zone. No?
So like when...
Like you're going to be all done, but you can't start yet. No, I mean after your practicum, because you're going to have like 6 weeks between like finishing school but actually being able to start work.
Yeah. I mean, it might be a little awkward. I'm sure we'll have all kinds of stuff to do in between times, but
being a male nurse, do you get maternity leave? Looks like you guys may need it. Right? Have I gained a few lbs?
Paternity, sometimes I guess it depends. I think some places give you paternity leave. They would call it paternity leave. I think some places give that to you, but it just depends on the hospital. It's something we'd have to look into, I guess. But
even if you don't like even as a nurse though, you get like PTO just in general, right? You've never had a job really with PTO. I mean, the church is really flexible, but I mean, like,
yeah, even if I take a Sunday off, I usually get paid.
Yeah.
At the church, but yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I would assume it might matter on what hospital you go to. Yeah.
Sorry. Sam's gained.
Yeah, I gained a little bit. I don't know. It might just depend on what hospital you go to, what kind of insurance they have. So I'm not sure. I would like to check into a couple of different hospitals, interview, just so I can compare. I think that would be good, just to do some due diligence. I think that would be. We've got options.
Yeah,
so.
It's going to be really interesting to see, too, how this all works out with what Annie needs, like with her disability things that she gets, whether, with him having a job with decent. He's never had a job that's offered insurance before, and we're still not quite sure how the laws work in our state, because it really benefits her to stay on like disability Medicaid because it provides things that private insurance just doesn't provide. But
Right.
I'm not sure. I'm a little nervous that if he says that he has insurance to his job, that they'll take it away. So I hope not. But it gets really. The law is really. If I could go and become a lawmaker, I would just make things easier to understand, especially for people in special situations, because it's really frustrating to try to figure things out, and everything's written in what feels like double speak. So it's yes but no, and like there's no way to call and get answers. So a little worried about how this all pans out, but trusting God that it's all going to work out. So, right?
Yep. I think it'll be good. There's something else I was gonna say about all of that, but I can't remember as far as insurance goes. I remember when I worked at the bank, they did offer insurance, health insurance, but it was incredibly expensive because it was a small bank. It only had 2 or 3 branches, and sadly, they had like 4 or 5, maybe 6. It was a lot for only having like 30 employees. They had like 5 or 6 ladies that were going through cancer, which is really sad. But because of that, they made everyone's insurance just like
the insurance costs
it would have
more
been,
than like you make.
Yeah, it would have been more than my paycheck. Like we would have had to get a second job just to afford the insurance that they offered. And the funny thing is, after we got hired because we worked at the same place, it was like probably 3 or 4 months later they just canceled it. They were like,
we're not going to provide
we're just not going to provide insurance anymore because it's so expensive. I think they ended up doing a little bit of Aflac kind of insurance instead, which it's kind of whatever. But anyway, yeah, that's the only other time I think we've had insurance offered.
Yeah.
And it wasn't worth it.
Let's see. So the garden and the farm. So this week has been kind of a weird lull. It felt like March was all hurry up and go, and like everything had to get lined up. And now it's kind of this middle part of April. Still too early to plant in the garden. We have our baby animals all set up in there. You'll meet some new ones this week in our vlog. Like our herd is all set. Mm-hmm. But I can't plant really till May 1st. So it feels a couple days of just twiddling my thumbs. It feels weird after being in such a rush for a while. But we made all our deadlines, and now we're just waiting for about a week before we can put seed. What do you call them? Starts in the garden. Mm-hmm. So in the main garden. So.
Arkansas Prepper says, my RN daughter had a pre-approved PRN friend that was there for her, and vice versa. Well, that's awesome. That's nice
setup.
That is nice.
I'm curious, how much time would you spend on homeschooling per day? Oh, that's a great question. So we do. I mean, the book work takes about. The older girls. So, I mean, the girls are all different ages. Micah's in 4th grade. I was in 2nd grade. The book work takes about 2 hours. They start at about 8:30. They're usually done with their book work about 10:30. But then on top of that, they have, like, they practice piano. They do, they might do some free reading or some art that they want to do. It's kind of more we aim for 3 hours a day. The first 2 hours are structured hours that I've planned and I'm helping them and I'm teaching them. And that last hour, sometimes more, it's more things that interest them that we then translate to school. Like Micah loves to read, and you always learn through reading. So Ivy loves to create things. She's always building things out of clay, or right now she's into making flip books, like it makes it look like an animation, and she'll work on that for hours. So that's art. I mean, she watches tutorials and learns from people who make them. So it's kind of like taking an art class online. So
and you do school year round,
and we do school year round.
They might get some breaks here and there.
We do we look at 3 hours a day, and we do school basically year round 4, sometimes 5 days a week. So that gets us our 1,000 hours. Pretty easy, and we usually we have taken about 4 weeks off, but not all at once. So like a week around Christmas, and a couple weeks here and there in the summer. Maybe we're traveling. So yeah, that's a great question. But it's important to know when you're homeschooling and counting hours. The kids obviously need to be able to do book work, and book learning is important. But the time that you need to make whatever your state mandated hours, it's not only book work. Like that's part of it, but there's also just learning through doing. Like we live on a farm, so starting seeds is a science lesson, like learning about how seeds work and things like that. So learning by doing.
Man. Let's see. Arkansas Prepper says, will Micah be able to help with the homeschool after she reaches 8th grade?
I don't know, Micah, what do you think?
Depending on how old they are, maybe.
Depending how old they, Micah helps. She likes to play teacher when they play games, and she makes them do little math papers and stuff and grades them.
Ivy does the math.
Oh, Ivy does the math?
I do the history.
Do the history, okay. I do think it's one of our goals. I feel like there's a lot of stigma around large families that they only have a lot of kids, so the older ones will raise the little ones for you. And so I would never want a child to have to teach their siblings or have to watch their siblings. It's not their job. It's not their fault that we had a lot of children. They need to be able to enjoy being children. So if she is older and wants to help, like that's different, but it's definitely not her responsibility. It's my responsibility to make sure all of the children are learning.
I was gonna say too, as they get older, it might get a little more intense than that too. Probably they'll spend a little bit more time.
Yeah, they get older. There'll be more book work. Like Micah has more than Ivy. Like today, it took her a solid 3 hours to get all of her book work done. There may have been some procrastinating going on, but she has more subjects than Ivy, who's in 2nd grade. So,
let's see. Katie says, we didn't get started on book work until after lunch today. The morning was just too beautiful to be inside.
And we do that too. It just depends on the day, especially if it's going to rain in the afternoon. I'll kick them outside in the morning. I'll be like, okay, we're going to do school after lunch because you need to go outside before we can't go outside. But I do find if I flip-flop the schedule around too much and it's not consistent, then I start to get a lot of feet dragging when I say, okay, it's time to do school. And when it's like, oh, we eat breakfast, we do our morning chores, we do school, like I don't get a lot of complaining necessarily when it's been that way a lot of days in a row because I just expect it. But if you flip-flop around out, they're always like, I want to do it later. But it's too, with all the children, it is too complicated to have people doing school at different times. Like, for me, that may not work for every family. But for us, like, school time is everybody's school time. Because I have it set up so certain people have independent activities and activities that need mommy. And if somebody decides they don't want to do it in the morning, they want to do it afternoon, then suddenly I have to reteach lessons where they should have been done with a sibling, but that sibling wanted to do it in the morning. Like, I'm not doing that. We all do school at the same time.
Debbie says waiting is okay. You get to get other things done.
Absolutely.
That is the nice thing about homeschooling. It can be very, very flexible. Prep for Eternity says our kids are in junior and high school, and we're usually done by noon.
Yeah, and that's pretty average. I'd say most homeschool families will tell you they do it in the morning, kind of get it out of the way, but they start after breakfast, and they're usually done by lunch, and it's 2, 3, maybe 4 hours if it's a high schooler. Of what we call book learning. Like I'm sitting down, I'm doing paperwork, things like that.
Katie says, yes, the routine definitely helps
the
with
attitude.
the
Oh my gosh. This is the other reason I school basically year round. Because even just taking like a week off at Christmas, the day we go back, you would think like you were killing somebody. Like and it's not that school isn't fun or, too hard for them. It's just they've been out of the routine and they've been able to do whatever they want to do and not have to do math or whatever, and now like they don't want to do it. So if we just make it part of our daily routine pretty much all year round, we don't get as many attitudes.
Arkansas Prepper says, I did not mean she would be made to do so, but she would learn to teach her own children in the future. I think they kind of pick up on that a little bit too, just being around it.
Yeah.
But like Micah said, like she really enjoys history, and so she actually does like to.
We have a little whiteboard upstairs, and she'll make them all sit upstairs, and she'll talk to them about whatever.
Yeah, she does. Or sometimes at the dinner table, she loves history so much, she will quiz everyone on their history knowledge and tell them where they got it wrong. Yeah, where they got it wrong and where they got it right. Veronica says, I'm in Canada, but I appreciate any homeschooling advice you share. We're raising a granddaughter I homeschool. Never homeschooled our boys. Love others' thoughts.
And it is a lot of, I know it's cliche, but a lot of it is like you do what works best for you and what you feel is helping your student, whether it's your child or your grandchild, learn. And there's no necessarily right way as long as everybody's learning. And that's what's most important. So...
Yeah, I like almost every homeschool family I know does it differently. They use different curriculum. Some people just use like one set kind of rigid curriculum. Some people pull from all kinds of different sources. Some people might homeschool all day and follow like a really traditional kind of
Yeah, school
public
schedule.
school, sort of program. So there's no one right way, but that's kind of the beauty of homeschool is you can really adapt it to your family and however they're going to learn best. It's really nice.
Prep Fraternity says, yes, we don't take big breaks. It's too hard to start back on routine. We just take a day here and there. And even as the parent, like after Christmas or whatever, we take a week off, like getting myself motivated to want to restart. Because like as a parent, there's a lot of planning and things and prep work. You got to get up early and make sure that, everything's ready for school that day. Like, I don't want to, it's easier just to, have a day where they kind of do their own thing. So
Katie says, and every kid is different.
Yes.
Boy, that's very true too.
That is so true.
Sometimes like a reading book that worked really well for one kid will not work for the next kid and stuff. So sometimes you do have to be kind of adaptable.
By the way, this is just thrown out there. If anybody's teaching a neurodivergent reader or a child who might be dyslexic, I haven't ordered it yet, but I've heard a lot of good reviews, including from a friend who's raising a child who is very ADHD, who she's homeschooling, who struggled with all of the reading curriculums. There's a curriculum out there, it's called Happy Cheetah, which does not sound like a reading curriculum, but it's made by a doctor who is a neurologist who works specifically with kids with learning disabilities. And I think we're going to get it for Annie to help her with her reading. But it's just a lot different than the reading curriculums I've seen or we've used with our other children, because what we have for other children is not working for Annie. So it's called Happy Cheetah if you're looking for something just completely out of the box different for children who are struggling to learn how to read.
All right. Let's see. Did we do Irish Lady?
No, doing math year round helps.
Oh.
Taking the summer off math means usually a month of review. Oh my gosh, yes.
Math can be hard to try and remember all that stuff.
Because it all
again.
builds on itself.
It does. Prep for Eternity says, depending on age, and it can be helpful for them to pick up curriculum and electives for them to pick like their own with guidance, of course.
Oh, that's a funny story. And this answer, what's Micah's favorite history focus? So last year, Micah's favorite history was U.S. presidents.
Yes.
She knew everything. So I found a curriculum for history that was U.S. presidents, thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to love this. And she's now over presidents because it's been a year of presidents. But she picked it, and we're going to finish what we started. But every time it comes to presidents, I get a big sigh and an eye roll because she's it's been a year. She's on to the next thing. But sometimes when you let your kids pick, they also might change their mind.
I
but
think
you kind of finish what you started.
I think it's because she feels like she's above it. Like she knows everything about the presidents. So that's what I think.
You think?
A little bit of it.
Yeah.
We were talking about it the other day.
Not government, just specifically like the people who are presidents and what made them a good or a bad president, which we've talked a lot about how that's kind of relative.
She loves like knowing their personal life. Like she can tell you a lot,
About their-
like their wives
their
and their
pets.
kids and
Yeah.
like what they did before and after they were presidents. She knows how most of them died. She actually knows like the year they died, a lot of them and stuff.
It was just her thing. She finds the ones who are assassinated like especially interesting, like why somebody would want to assassinate somebody.
She likes the ones that were like peculiar, like the odd presidents. She really enjoys those. The ones that kind of have a different
story to tell. Yeah.
Which I guess everybody's kind of like that a lot of times. You like the odd ones that have a good story. She really likes some of those the like American Girl kind of stuff too. A little bit.
She just likes American history in general. She just thinks it's interesting. Trying to think, she was really into like mummies in Egypt for a while. We went through that phase. But I just try to whatever she's interested in. That's the great thing about libraries is, she'll kind of get on something for a couple months and she just wants to learn and read everything she can about that, which is, go for it. So we go up to the children's librarian, we want to request as many books as you can find about, mummies or sharks or whatever it is. So The Curse of Tippecanoe. Yeah, she actually just, oh no, actually that would have been a couple months ago. Right today she listened to FDR's Pearl Harbor, Day You Live in Infamy speech. And we talked about the power of the president, like in declaring war and stuff. So,
That's a good speech to listen
Can you
to.
tell us where to find the Happy Cheetah reading program? So if you Google it, it is not available on Amazon. You have to buy it from Happy Cheetah. And I'm going to be honest, it's not cheap. It's several $100s, which is why I haven't bought it yet. I'm waiting to save up some money later this summer. But I've actually held the actual curriculum and gone through it because a friend of mine has it. And it is really good. And it comes with workbooks, like workbooks for several years. So you buy the set and then you're good for a long time. But if you just type in Happy Cheetah reading into Google, the website will pop up. And the lessons are very short, and it incorporates reading and writing, because most kids who have trouble, like neurodivergent learners, like dyslexic kids, they have trouble with reading and writing. It's the same issues. The letters don't make sense to them. They don't look like letters like they do to us. So they practice both at the same time, which is really good.
You were really happy that it was short, because that's part of Annie's problem.
She just gets overwhelmed. It's too, and then she feels if she doesn't finish the whole lesson, because we use All About Reading for the other kids, which has been great for them, but the lessons are longer. And for Annie, we were trying to do them, but we would do like a quarter of a lesson at a time. But then she felt like she failed because she didn't finish the lesson. So the Happy Cheetah, the lessons are short, and there's actually a button inside the box that when you hit it, it goes easy, and you're supposed to hit it every time you finish a lesson. And the lessons never take more than 10 or 15 minutes. So, you feel successful every day that you do your school or do your reading, which is really important for a reader or for children who are having trouble with reading and writing, because I think a lot of times they just feel stupid that they can't figure it out. And it's not that they're stupid, it's just that they need to learn differently than other children do. So
I'm excited for that.
I am excited for that. And she's doing so well. Like, she goes to school, public school, for 4 hours a week. And she gets, one day of that is just like physical therapy kind of stuff. And then the other day she does some academic assistance. And they've helped a lot too. Her writing has gotten a lot better. It's just all very challenging for her. Just from the visual issues, and then just even if tie one hand behind your back and try to write on a piece of paper, and it just flies all over the table, So it's just physically it's difficult just to stabilize the paper. So
She gets upset sometimes on the writing day. She loves the physical therapy day.
Oh,
because
they play on the playground and stuff.
But when she has to do the writing day, she'll complain and moan about going to class. You're like, what's the problem? She's like, they make me write. It's a form of abuse or something.
Yeah, it's just so sad.
It's not funny, but it is.
It is funny. And we had talked about how you have to go do the hard things too. You can't just go do the fun things. Like they're oh, look how much better this paper looks from when you started. So you also have to be able to recognize when a curriculum isn't working for your child anymore. We had to change from TT math this year after using it for years. Yeah, if it's not, and that can be hard too as a parent, because you're like, these curriculums are not cheap, and if I have to buy another one, and so it can be a little tricky. I have had a lot of luck on eBay, not necessarily with student workbooks because people write in them, but like with all the others, and then I just buy the student workbooks, and that saves me a lot of money.
And then we had a donation from Jepco. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Happy Cheetah Fund. God bless.
I'll do an unboxing video when we do order it if people are interested. So
we appreciate that so much.
Radine says, thank you. If they're not learning to read, it gets so frustrating because they are not getting it. Finding the funding is priority.
Yeah, that's true too.
And it can be, we'll say that as parents raising a child with special needs, like everything costs extra money. Like it's not just the reading program. Everything costs extra money, so you feel like it's always coming and going, and so sometimes it can be challenging trying to save up money for specific things, especially if it's a larger purchase. So you just have to be patient and work towards it.
Right. And you might, Radine, I mean, I know they have workbooks that they have to do, so you might not be able to find or
you could
get
probably
a used
piece it
workbook,
together.
but maybe you could find some used parts here and there and be able to piece it together a little cheaper. That might work.
Lisa says, I had problems reading, and my mother used to let me read age-appropriate comics. My mother would say no to many things, but she always said yes to books, so I'd always ask for them. Hey, whatever. Yeah, Ivy's not a big fan of reading, but she loves mystery books, we've discovered. So And I don't care if she reads 100 mystery books in a year, and that's the only thing she reads. It says the second grader, as long as she's reading something, like, I'll take it. So
Yep.
we can get more particular about diversifying our reading when she's older. So
Arkansas Prepper says, thumbs up, everybody.
yes, if you think about it, we could appreciate your thumbs up. So
It always helps.
so yeah, things are going good though. Prep for eternity, but changing from teaching textbooks also caused us to find a wonderful new math curriculum. Turned out to be a blessing. That's
There you
great. Veronica says, from what I've watched, you guys are doing a great job with all the Lord has for you. Well, thank you very
thank
much.
you.
We appreciate that.
Lisa says, get the old Nancy Drew books.
So
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
right now she's on one. They have it at the library. It's
think-
called A to Z Mysteries, but there's like 100 of them. So we get a couple of those every time we go to the library.
That is the nice thing about mystery books. There's all kinds of them out there.
Yeah.
I enjoyed mystery books when I was a kid too. Rating says you both have a broad perspective. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for commenting.
Anything else for the good of the order? It's almost been an hour. I know you got to study.
I think I'm good.
Annoying fan came back. Yay! Welcome back. Welcome back, Heidi.
I had to go take the dogs around the pasture and lock up the goats in the front.
Yeah, Arkansas said, I cried when you found your goats. Oh,
Aw.
I about cried too. I felt so bad, and it was just 100% my fault. But they are safely back there. The fence is on, and so. Iris Lady says, the Boxcar Children books. Yes, we were just talking about those the other day, because I grew up on those. The library didn't have any on the shelf, but our library is pretty small, but it's part of a larger system, and so
You
they
could
can usually
ask for 'em,
request
yeah.
them for us, so.
Chris says, when I was young, I used to like the Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Yeah.
Those are cool
I think
too.
I should get some of those. She would like that.
Those little goats though. Little stinkers were like, they weren't, maybe more than a quarter mile from the house, just on the gravel road. And the fact that they would not let us catch them, even though you could tell they were absolutely exhausted.
Yeah.
And once we got, just walked behind
them,
them
yeah.
all the way up here. And once we got to the driveway, they ran right up. Like, they knew exactly where they're supposed to go. Even though we'd only had them for a couple days. It was kind of funny. And then once we got them in the yard, they were completely exhausted. We caught them both. They let us catch them. But those little goobers, they were down there chasing them in the gravel road for a while. Because they wouldn't let us snag them. J&B says, are any of the girls' Little House on the Prairie fans?
We've
I've tried
done
to
those as
read it.
read-alouds.
Yeah, a little bit, but not too much. Hardy Boys says Allison. Let's see. Adele says, me too, annoying fan, and made my hubby cry too. We prayed.
Well,
God is good.
thank you. We feel very fortunate that they were found, and somebody knew to knock on our door. So,
That was really random.
because they weren't.
What time was it? It was like 9 or 10
Yeah,
o'clock
somebody
at
came
night.
and knocked on a stranger's door at 9:00 at night, and those goats were like almost a mile from our house, and
They weren't quite that far.
it was
but
a ways down
It was
there.
a ways.
It was not near our property. So.
Yeah, I don't know how they knew they were our goats, because we'd only had them for a day or two, and they hadn't been out. So, but anyway.
Let's see. I grew up. Let's see. Magic Tree
Magic
House. We
Tree
tried
House
those.
books.
We have
Mhm.
several of those. And then Shel
Shel
Silverstein. I grew
Silverstein.
up reading Shel. Did you read? She's more poetry, but I remember reading those growing up.
Let's see. Louis
L'Amour for
L'Amour.
Saggy Draws. And Where the Sidewalk Ends is my favorite kids book. I've read that one. I remember reading that one as a child. So yeah, lots of good suggestions. The library, when we go to the library, I won't say that it's not chaos like they're bad, but it's chaos because they're excited.
Yeah.
And so I just bring a big bag and I let them pick books. And then when we get home, I double check the books that they picked, which usually they do fine, but just to make sure. But it's just everybody's so excited. We end up with like 50 books. And when we get
That's
home,
very
I
true.
check what we have picked off the shelves, and then we return anything that we don't need to read right now. So, the Who Was book. Micah's read several of those, and she likes the Dear America series. She's read several of those now, which is like a diary from a person earlier in American time. So
Heidi likes the Shel Silverstein books.
Yeah.
Or poems as well.
So
That's the fun part about reading. There's so much
there's
so
a lot
much
out there. You could, and even Ivy, who claims she doesn't like to read. Like once we found some mystery books, it was so funny. She was like, Mom, I don't want to do my reading. I hate reading. And I was like, I got you this book from the library. You only have to read for 20 minutes or whatever. She sat in that chair and read for an hour and a half because she wasn't going to stop until that book was done because she wanted to know what happened. So
I remember those days. Now I have to. I told Laura, in a weird way, going to school, I feel like has opened me back up to reading a little
Yeah.
bit. Like right now, it's still kind of painful because it has to be for school. It's not like casual or fun reading, but I can't wait until school is over and hopefully I can get back into some fun reading again.
I still think it's ironic. So, like 5 years ago or so, our pastor decided to go back to school for an advanced degree. And when he went back to school at that time, Sam was like, "Oh, I never am going back to school. I hate doing school."
Yeah.
And then look at you.
That's so. I
Not
won't
just any school, too. Something completely different from anything you've ever done.
That's very true. I won't say that school is like my favorite thing though. It's still like, I don't know. It's not my favorite thing. I do okay in it.
Yeah, you
but
do great.
It's
You
not
do
my. It's not my like absolute. It's like some people just like love, and I enjoy learning.
You
But
hate the like busy work deadlines. Like, couldn't we have just done this to learn that instead of 400 pages of something or other? Just tell me what I need to know. I feel like no.
I don't even mind the busy work sometimes. I don't know. I don't like being put on the spot. I don't like that about school, which this program doesn't really do that. But I don't like that aspect of school. I enjoy casually learning though. I enjoy that stuff a lot. Let's see. Lisa says when you find the right path for your school is much more tolerable. I just feel this time around with school I'm extremely motivated. So
Things are going to be different.
Yep.
Things are going to be better.
Is this the most motivated you've ever seen me in my life?
When you said you were going back to nursing school, I was like, okay.
Not just regular nursing school.
Advanced,
Or
accelerated nursing school.
program nursing school.
Because I met you first time around in college here.
No, let's be clear. When you first
were
met
not
me,
a bad student.
No. But listen, when you first met me, you thought I was like a 4.0 student, and then I had to
You were
disappoint
in fact not.
I was not a.
You did. I will say your nickname maybe was bare minimum, or at least it was submitted at 11:59 and it was due at midnight.
I still had like a 3.5 in college, so that's not terrible. It's not a 4.0, but that's not terrible. Paying money motivates.
Yeah.
That's very true. Let's see. Debbie says Nancy Free. I liked. Lisa says when I went back in my late 40s, I started pulling A's.
Yeah.
Yep. You feel a lot more motivated and like focused and organized and all of it, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel that way.
Well, and you don't feel. I feel like when you go to college first time, you're really young. You don't necessarily know for sure what you want to do because you don't have any experience, and so then you're not. Some people do, but I think most people are kind of wishy-washing their way through. At least that's how I felt.
Oh, Nancy Drew.
Yeah,
is what
so.
Debbie meant. I feel that way. I think if I'd had, and I wish I did have more of. It's hard. It feels weird to say I wish I had more of a purpose when I was in college the first time, but I think if I did have more of a purpose behind what I was doing, I would have been much more motivated. But it was kind of like I think I like this kind of a motivation, and not like this is what I need to do. This is my purpose. It was kind of like, I guess I'll try that out. Let's see. And all those beautiful children motivate as well. That's very, very true.
That's all why watching. You got to do a good job.
My classmates tell me that a lot because I have to drive over an hour to school, like 3 or 4 times a week. And for clinicals, I'm going to have to drive. I always drive over an hour to get to clinicals. And almost all of my classmates actually live in town. So they're like 10 minutes away at the most. And I think 2 of the... What are they doing up there?
I'm going to finish your story. I'll go check real quick.
2 of the... I think there's 10 of us now. Yeah. We've had some people join and drop out. I think there's 10 of us now. 3 of us of the 10 have kids. But they all ask me all the time, like, bro, I don't know how you do it. Having 6 kids. And I always tell them, well, my wife is like Superwoman, first off. And then they say, like, and also like having to drive so much. How do you do it? But I usually tell them my wife and my kids motivate me. My wife is like I said, she's incredible and does so much. And then we really want to try and change things around the farm and around our life for the better for the kids. So all of that, I've got 7 motivating factors, 6 kids and a wife. So let's see. Homestead Nana says, good night, guys. Love your lives and hope to see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us. Heidi says, I think that's so awesome, working your booty brain off to learn a career that will provide in multiple ways for your family. Plus, what an example for all the kiddos. When I first went to college, I majored in partying. What an eye-opener when I had to pay back the student loans. After a few years of adulting, I went back and worked hard. That's right. I didn't really party, but I did not try hard either.
right.
Let's see. Arkansas Prepper says, I went back to college at 38 and was upset when the younger students wanted to go home early. Let's see. We have a replied annoying fan. For real, me too. J&B says, ditto, what annoying fan said. Both of you are amazing examples for the kid. Let's see. I regret going to school. Should have joined the union or military out of high school. Screw society. LOL. Yeah, I thought for a while about joining the military. Not this time
Recently,
around,
but
but
yeah.
first time out, but it didn't happen. What have you got?
All right, somebody here needs to go to bed. He's
Hey.
just being downright naughty.
Can you tell everybody bye-bye? You gotta take this out, though. Tell everybody bye-bye.
Say bye.
Tell everybody bye-bye. Ready? Wave your hand. Say bye-bye.
All right, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you guys so much for jumping in and watching. You guys have a really good week and be safe. We'll talk to you later. Say bye. You're giving them the silent treatment. We'll see you later. Night.